I'm on, bro.
Hello, everyone. I want to thank you all for showing up and taking this very important matter to heart. Tonight, we're going to. This is so. This is Matter of Innocence, redeeming justice, and it's about the realities of wrongful convictions. And I would like to introduce myself. My name is Anna Vasquez, and unfortunately, due to the weather, I'm having to have my camera turned off. But nonetheless, my friends here, Ricky and Jarrett, will be able to take over just in case I fall off for a little bit. So to begin, my name is Anna Vasquez, and I am an exoneree. I served almost 13 years for a crime that never even occurred. I was convicted based on faulty science and was actually exonerated in 2016, thankfully with the help to the Innocence Project of Texas. I am now the Director of Outreach for the organization and will moderate tonight's conversation. With me tonight is Jarrett Adams, attorney, author, and exoneree. Now, Jarrett served 10 years in a maximum security prison in Wisconsin for a crime that never happened. There was no DNA evidence, only the accuser's testimony, which was later to be proven false. He has recounted his story in the recently released book, Redeeming Justice: My Fight for Equity on Both Sides of a Broken System. In addition to running a thriving law practice, Jarrett is the co-founder of the nonprofit Life After Justice, which works to change the laws that perpetuate wrongful convictions, advocates for fair exoneree compensation, and supports exonerees with mental health, wellness, and technology services. I also have here tonight my friend and colleague, Ricky Kidd, who is a speaker, trainer, and exoneree. Ricky was convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. There was absolutely no physical evidence linking him to the crime. He served 23 years in a Missouri prison before being exonerated in 2019. In August of 2021, Ricky filed a federal lawsuit against the Kansas City Police Department and the arresting officers for violating due process, false arrest, and civil rights violations. He is the founder of I Am Resilience and also one of our supporters tonight, which is on a mission to advance the conversation around broken justice in America and human resilience. Thanks to Life After Justice and I Am Resilience for sponsoring tonight's discussion. Jared and Ricky, welcome, guys. It's really great to meet you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
So tonight I want to set the stage on a conversation about some facts that our audience may not know. America incarcerates more than anyone, unfortunately, and some people don't belong there. It's estimated that between 2 and 10% of the 2.3 million prison population are innocent. As few as 46,000 and as many as 230,000 people. I mean, those numbers are just astounding. But let me hit you with this. Women represent 10% of the total prison population. About 231,000, and more than half of these women have not even been convicted of a crime and are presumed innocent. Unfortunately, the growth in the women's state prison population is exploding at twice the rate of men. Between 1979 and 2015, the female state prison population grew to 834%, and unfortunately, it continues to grow. The wrongfully convicted or disproportionately people of color, 64% and 50% of that number are Black. Why do you think innocent people are wrongfully convicted? Jarrett, I'd like to hit you with this question first. Since you're an attorney and an exoneree, you've seen both sides of the law.
Yeah.
Now, when it works and when it doesn't,
Mm-hmm.
what are the reasons for innocent people and why they end up convicted for a crime that they didn't commit?
Well, how much time do I have? Because I mean, I could talk, endlessly, especially with what you just said. Just having the experience going through it and having the help and the assistance of, the amazing folks at the West Council Innocence Project, and now doing it on this end. I thought for sure, when I was exonerated, that some of the things that led to my wrongful conviction would most certainly be addressed, 20 years later when I'm an attorney, and it's just not the case. But to cite off some of the known and probably unknown, I'll highlight, 5, right? You got eyewitness misidentification. We now know through the advancements of science and technology that witnesses are human, and humans get it wrong sometimes. Sometimes we make mistakes. We can all be in a room and see something happen, and everyone will see something differently. And so we've now started to acknowledge that in our criminal justice system with the help of experts. There's also bad science. Anna, you had, I was going to say benefit, but the lack of a benefit of bad science in your case. And when you have people testifying to this bad science, a jury is sitting up there wondering, well, why would they lie? Well, why would they, not the questions that, are answered by the science, they're answering by what they believe the norms are. And that the norms are police don't get it wrong. So that's another big one. And then there's the official misconduct, where that's an umbrella of issues, because official misconduct includes using informants, folks that aren't credible, or folks that you would argue are not credible if they were testifying for the defense. And so we've made it easy for officials to manufacture these statements, and it be the nail in wrongfully convicted people's coffin, right? You also have the perjury, the false accusations, the false confessions. But one of the biggest reasons that I think that wrongful convictions happen is because of lack of resources and lack of voices. And you just stated how, predominantly this is a people of color issue, but now it's overspilling into folks, who are just poor and can't afford a defense. It's unfortunate, but in many ways, the numbers support this. This isn't just me saying it. Justice is for sale. I'll pass it right now because I'm telling you, and I will keep talking. All right, there's a lot to go through.
I was just trying to unmute. Take it easy. All right, let's not give it. No, you're absolutely right. And, here in Texas, we were actually, it was actually a win for us, because jailhouse informants, we realized, were a problem, as in every state, right? But we were able to, now we're going to start tracking these jailhouse informants, because what we came across was that there was one person that was testifying into all these different courtrooms and getting a sweet deal. Yeah. But, so we were successful in that, and hopefully other states will mimic, that into their legislative sessions. And
they need to. I mean, they need to, especially, the state of Michigan. If they aren't doing it right now, they need to. There have been a number of wrongful convictions that have come and been reversed by way of false snitch testimony. And I'm representing 2 guys right now in the state of Michigan, in Detroit, specifically, who have lost a quarter century plus apiece, all due to false snitch testimony from snitches who've been used several different times in several different cases.
So Jarrett, we talked about, you brought up my case and how it was faulty science, but what was it that was responsible for your wrongful conviction out of these, the 5 out of 6?
Well, the main culprit was race. You know, me, my two friends, black kids from Chicago, our accuser was a white girl. So we didn't come with the presumption of innocence. We were the opposite, right? We were guilty until we were able to afford ourselves innocent, and we weren't able to. And so I had been assigned a public, well, not a public defender. I was assigned a lawyer off of a panel list, which was a conflict list for the panel public defenders who weren't able to take your case. So I, along with my one co-defendant who was found guilty along with me, we were afforded attorneys off of a list. It's not to say that these attorneys are all inadequate, but it's safe to say that a number of these attorneys who are afforded to people are overwhelmed. And some of the numbers of cases that public defenders are carrying, if I carried those numbers as a private attorney, I would be before the board of the bar examiners explaining how I'm effective with this many cases. And that was the factor in my case. I had an attorney who wasn't retained through us, so he was paid through the court. He never hired an investigator. And in fact, that was the reason why my conviction was reversed, because there was a witness statement that was out there which would support my innocence along with my co-defendants, and also show that the police withheld this evidence from us, and our attorneys simply didn't hire an investigator. And that's all it would have took to discover this evidence.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate, Jarrett. I mean, but you see it all the time, right? I mean, the public defenders, they're just so overwhelmed, they're underpaid, and they feel like, let's just get it off the books. I mean, it's just my opinion, but you know, there is a lot of stats that prove otherwise. I want to go to Ricky. Ricky, what played a part in your conviction?
Yeah, I'm so glad that we kicked it off talking about the 5 to fix, those 5 key issues that the American people need to be focusing on, that is a direct correlation with the large amount of wrongful convictions. And then Jarrett explained a little bit about his case. Anna, you did as well. And then 3 of them pop up in mind. 1 is a Missouri failed public defender system. 2 is police and prosecutorial misconduct. And then 3 was misidentification procedures, bad identification procedures. In the first instance, at the young age of 21, I'm picked up, taken into custody, I'm questioned, I am released. And then some 3 months later, they come back and they charge me. And I'm thinking that the worst that's going to happen is that I'm just going to be inconvenienced. I am being inconvenienced. No way innocent people go to prison. I wasn't aware of the large issue, the crisis that American is facing surrounding wrongful convictions. And I was appointed a public defender. And I think, a lawyer, man, my hero, come save me. But as Jarrett said, they are underfunded. They're overworked. There's no way that they can professionally and successfully manage those caseloads. And they often result in a wrongful conviction, as did in my case. And as if that wasn't enough, we then moved to the police department, where they were participating in what is called a suggestive identification procedure. A lot of people in America may have heard of heard of the phrase suggestive identification, but sometimes people don't know what is that. What is a suggestive identification, Ricky? And that is when the police involved in the investigation of a homicide or any type of crime have a witness, bring the witness in, and then find ways to suggest to the witness who they should pick. In my case, they showed my state witness, or the state witness, a single photo of me first, and he wasn't able to identify me. They then showed him a 5-man photo spread. The only faces that changed was one, mine. And so he said, I think that's him. Are you sure? I'm not sure. So they said, let's take you in another room. And they showed him a video lineup. All the faces changed once again, except for whose? Except for mine. At that point, he figured out the game. Even a 5-year-old could figure that game out. Oh, this is the guy that you want me to pick. And so that's what he did. He picked me. In addition, the prosecutor on my case pulled in key suspects whose name also came up. She pulled them in her office. She did not invite my lawyers to come to that sit down, which is a violation within itself. And then when the real killers began to talk essentially confessing, a little bit short of a full confession, but they was acknowledging that they was together. Everything that they were saying matched by spots and dots with the police report, what prosecutors already know. And more importantly, they said Ricky Kidd was not with us. Well, what did she do with that information? Especially since she didn't invite us and make us privy to the fact that it was even happening, she buried it. She buried that information, and she got caught with her hand in the cookie jar, if you will, some X amount of years later when my legal team was able to discover that. And so those are three of the 5 to fix issues that happened in my case that led to my wrongful conviction, and that is leading to many other men's wrongful convictions in America.
You know, I'm really glad that we're having this conversation, guys, because I think that it's very important to educate the public about what is actually happening. And, you know, unfortunately, well, fortunately for people that don't have to deal with the criminal justice system, it's very fortunate, right? They're very fortunate. But if at somehow, some way, if we could just educate these people. And, you know, Ricky, I hate to say it, but I was naive. You know, you were naive. You thought, I have an attorney. They're going to fight for my life. You know, they're going to do everything possible. The lineup that you just mentioned, I can speak truth to that. I had the same thing. There was a 6 women photo lineup. The only thing that was different was that mine was only a headshot. Everybody had, you know, full body. But, you know, let's talk about, you know, going along with the investigation, right? As an innocent person, there are so many people that want to cooperate with law enforcement. And I know I did. And speaking personally, when I gave a statement, it was only like we were conversating. They were asking me questions. And what they did was they typed up what they wanted to type up. Did I know any better? No. Did I sign it? Yeah. You know, but out of that conversation, it's like they pick and chose what they wanted in that statement. It's not like I physically wrote it out, you know, for myself. You know, so there's just a lot of things that we need to fix with the system. And also, I think it's, you know, very important that we continue to do this outreach, guys. So thank you.
And now, Anna, just to piggyback on what you said, a lot of it is about this too as well. So if you notice that there was a time where you never saw convictions being reversed and stuff like that. And it wasn't because there were no wrongful convictions. It was because our society wasn't yet ready to acknowledge that our system could rob us of what makes us Americans, right? Our fabric is what? Freedom, our Constitution. And so our system wasn't, you know, society wasn't ready to accept that. But, you know, through the advancements of, again, you know, technology and science, the movement of the Innocence Project with Barry Scheck and Peter Newfield, you know, the science, the data, the numbers forced us to acknowledge the skeletons in our closet. So now what this is about going forward is this. We have to teach the next carriers of the torch, because they're going to be the ones who fix this. We know we have most certainly put innocent people to death in the United States. That alone should make us stop every execution and make sure that we got it right. But we haven't. And that is where the next generation must not accept this. Because right now we are being asked to accept it, and there's only so many justice warriors like ourselves who are going all out to make sure that it doesn't happen.
Yeah, I also want to piggyback on what Jarrett is saying, and I really want people who's tuning in today to understand this too. There's one very, very, very important fact. The power of a prosecutor. That's a very, very important fact that I don't think people pay too much attention to. There is only one person, one individual inside our criminal legal system that is more that holds all the power, and that's prosecutors. Not one as in one, but that administrator of justice.
Absolutely.
That's prosecutors. who have this unyielding power to charge as they want to dismiss charges, to really wreck lives. And they have been doing that. Some intentionally, some unintentionally, but doing it nonetheless. The National Registry of Exonerations showed that 54% of wrongful convictions have a direct correlation with police or prosecutorial misconduct. That's a big deal, ladies and gentlemen. That is a big deal. And when we go back to what Jarrett was just talking about, as far as misidentification, one of those 5 to fix, 71% of wrongful convictions has a direct correlation with misidentification. And so I really want people to understand that and really do your research yourself. Don't take our word for it. Get on your computers and do some fact checking, and you will see we have a problem when a prosecutor has unfettered power and unfettered access to be able to wreck the lives. We have an obligation to know that that's what's going on, and then we also have a commitment to find a way to do something about it.
Absolutely. What do you think? How do we fix this, guys? I mean, this has been going on so long. Are you just okay with, I mean, not okay, but are you, so in my opinion, right, this is like David and Goliath, right? So by taking the small steps, by doing the small wins, it brings me peace of mind. What do you guys think, how do we do this? How do we change it? Is there, any thoughts that you guys are putting into play, or?
It has to be undone. It can't be changed. It has to be undone, because if you think about its inception, it was never done to benefit or protect the rights of people of color. If you think I'm just saying something, go read U.S. versus Dred Scott. Where we had to fight to be acknowledged in this country. So if we had to fight to be acknowledged in this country, then you got to understand that when the creations of the criminal justice system was created, it wasn't with those mechanisms that take into account minorities. I'll give you a specific example to be exact. Look at the bond system, right? So how was the bond system created? People was like, okay, look, if you're accused of a crime, just put your house up, or just pay a bunch of money to secure yourself to be back in court. Well, how many people you think of color was at the table and voted for that? Or how many people you think that were from poverty voted for that and said, man, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Put up a house I don't already own and put up money I don't have to secure freedom that I most certainly am not going to have because of the process. So when you look at that, you say to yourself, the only way to fix that is to unravel it and do it the right way, the correct way. And a lot of that is this. I believe this. I believe that we have to focus on the generation up under us. Law schools owe the biggest, hand in fixing the justice system. If you have a law school that doesn't have a criminal clinic or some type of social justice clinic, you're doing us a disfavor in the law, because how do you ever balance it unless you put young folks and folks who are directly impacted, folks who come from directly impacted communities, or folks who are knowledgeable about this, right? How do you ever get them into the legal field if they don't make it to law school, if they don't get through law school? So it's a complete unraveling of the system in certain areas that we know disproportionately affect minorities. And I can't state this enough, right? Look at this. Look at the numbers. When you look at the numbers of who's being wrongfully convicted, it's mainly African-American men. When you look at the numbers of who's mainly doing the overturning of conviction, it's not African-American men. When you look at the numbers of those who are doing wrongful conviction 1983, when you look at the clients, they mainly look like me and Ricky. But when you look at the lawyers, they do not. And that is a part of the problem. You cannot get change unless the people who are directly impacted have the opportunity to have a say-so in their leadership position, not just at the bottom or they're being called the diversity officer and all that other crazy stuff. We need real power to change this thing.
Yeah, I have to echo, and just from a different lens or perched from a different branch, but from the same tree, what Jarrett's saying. It is very, very important that and that's one of the reasons that motivated me to roll up my sleeves and get involved. It was 6 weeks. I gave myself 6 weeks after I came home, and I was on the road. I was on the road, crisscross I had to add my voice. I needed my voice and my hue, the color of my skin, to be representing this space. I've done that so far. I sit on the advisory board of the Jackson County District Attorney's Office. I had to get in that space. So we have to go inside those spaces. We have to become the advocates. We have to become the lawyers. We have to become the ones filing the 1983s. And we have to bring other people in as well to take the lead. One of the things when Anna talks about solutions, and I'll just touch on this real briefly and then we could continue to move on. One of the key solutions, in my strongest opinion, is prosecutor training our prosecutors here in America, giving them proximity to the facts, the data that he's talking about. That is not a part of their training. I sat down with a prosecutor recently as it relates to my own training program, and I asked them, I said, are y'all receiving this type of training program? I could barely finish the sentence, and the head was going back and forth. No, they're simply not being trained. So in a sense, we're also failing our prosecutors because we're not giving them we're giving them all the power, no training to go with that power, and then we're not stepping in, becoming a part of that power circle. The Kimberly Fox, the Kimberly Gardners, the Mark Dupree's, those individuals who just say we can't just grab our bullhorns and chant from the sidelines. If I'm understanding what Jarrett is saying, we got to roll up our sleeves and get in there. So
I mean, absolutely. And then look, just think about this. What Rick is saying, and the individuals that he's named, the progressive prosecutors, right? You would think they would get, a round of applause. They don't. They get chastised. They get, indicted for stuff that has nothing to do with their job, taxes and how it's all done. It's just, it's what is it about this system that when people go in to change it, it ends up changing them? Like, that's the key to fixing it. And I don't have all the answers to that.
I don't know, guys. You make me think that, these guys are just wanting to keep the system as is, because we are the minorities, unfortunately. But like you said, it's so true what you said, Jarrett and Ricky, how, just personally speaking, in front of the Innocence Conference, right, that we just had, Ricky, a couple weeks ago. It's so this was a different year, Jarrett. You didn't go this year, but usually, you get all the exonerees on stage.
Yeah.
And it's, basically your minorities. Not everybody, right? But there's very few of our white counterparts on stage. But when you look out, it's a sea of white. Let's just be honest, right? This is an honest conversation that I'm having. So I completely understand what you say, and it's reality and very unfortunate. But I want to switch it up a little bit, guys. I want to ask you guys, what, after this wrongful conviction, after serving so many years, did either of you get any kind of compensation? After this wrongful conviction, after these so many years lost?
Yeah, I mean, I'll answer first. No. And I know that a lot of people assume with how far I've gotten, Jarrett must have got compensated. I got news for everybody. I never got anything. Never got anything. My conviction was reversed because of my lawyer's ineffective assistance of counsel. My lawyer was practicing law without malpractice insurance. So I didn't have anyone to go after to be able to get, you know, my claim. And Ricky's shaking his head, yeah, because he's understanding the process, and now it's a moving target now that you're doing it. And I do 1983 work now, mainly exclusively in my firm. And I also have the nonprofit, which, you know, is designed to go through and help with the wrongful convictions, and also help people like me and you and Ricky to reintegrate back into life. But to answer your question, yeah, I was never given anything. I got out February of 2007. I was 26, turning 27 years old. My mom, my stepfather were retired. I was thankful to be able to go lay over there. I enrolled in school, and I was so angry, right, at how I was just dropped out. And it was almost like one of these, oh, my bad. You know, your record expunged, your record clear. What you mad about? Go ahead and live life. It was one of these things, right? And how dare anyone who believes that that's okay, right? Because I've heard that said before. In one of the cases that I'm working on, an exoneree case, I've heard a prosecutor say, well, you're out, you know, you should just be happy. And it's like, you know, that goes to show you how much a person truly understands if they can believe that that is okay. So these laws, specifically the state of Wisconsin, they have a max of $25,000 for anyone, no matter how many years you spend. And then the standard in which they've created is almost impossible to reach unless there's someone stepping up and saying, yeah, Ricky didn't do it, I did it. You know, it's impossible. And even in that situation, there are still people who argue against, you know, of the credibility of the person admitting to doing it. So when folks see people get their convictions overturned, there's an automatic assumption that they'll be okay and be taken care of and go off to financial security. Even if that is the case, you usually don't get anything or see anything until years after your release. And that becomes I hope you can hold on for those years. So yeah, I had never received anything, but instead of allowing it to burn me up, I used it as the fuel that drove me to where I am today.
Yeah, that Jarrett, I've always admired you from even when I was still on the inside, because how he ended is how I'm going to begin my answer. It's really been my few. No, I didn't receive anything out of the state of Missouri. Missouri does not offer compensation unless you were DNA exonerated. In most cases, are not DNA exonerated, and so that was a big fat no. But I was motivated by that myself, just like what Jarrett said. I didn't have a penny. My family was not well to do. They didn't have a nest egg. They didn't have 2 or 3, 4 or 5 grand waiting for me. And so I had to rely on friends and supporters to kind of get through the first leg of my reintegration. And then I had to quickly realize what I was going to do to generate revenue. I had the opportunity to take resilience training. I was talking about resilience and how I was able to overcome. My wife and I was able to take resilience training. I was able to do a lot of studies on the issues surrounding why I did not go to law school. I picked up every report, every article, every data, anything that I could really put my hands and my eyes on to better understand the issues. I took a crash course, if you will, to be the strongest advocate, non-lawyer advocate that I could be, and then figured out a way that, hey, if I can make a living doing this and make a difference, then I might be onto something. And that's what the state of Missouri forced me to do. It is shameful. It is shameful that our compensation laws across the country are garbage, in my opinion. Only a few states can probably get a nod and a wink, and that is just a few, because nowhere else do we not hold individuals accountable. Under no other circumstances do we not hold individuals accountable. If you leave today, if you travel today, if you get into a car accident today, when that somebody is going to be held accountable for that. When the big tobacco companies do misdeeds, they held accountable to that. When Johnson & Johnson participated in misdeeds, they was held accountable to that. We understand that. We understand it across all other spectrums. But when it comes to exonerees, we tend to look the other way and not care as much, and maybe adopt the mindset of, well, that's okay. You got your freedom. That's not right.
Yeah.
You know, you're absolutely right, guys. I think that there's this perception with the general public that you should just be glad that you're out of prison, and that's very unfortunate. And let me share this with you, or with the audience, should I say, because I know you guys know this, but there's only 35 out of the 50 states in the federal government that provide some form of compensation. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you this, Texas is one of the leading ones, and I was fortunate to be compensated. But I will tell you that that's not everything that goes along with it. You know, we've talked about mental health and how important it is. And Ricky, at the conference, I spoke out on that. Jarrett, you weren't there. Ricky spoke highly of you in his talk, and I spoke about mental health and how it affects us and how we, years later, decade later, for myself, I still struggle. And I think that there needs to be, more thought into let's just give them money. We really have to do better.
Yeah. Look, you're not alone, Anna. You're not alone at all. I mean, I still, that was one of the things that I missed when telling my story of coming home February 2007. One of the first places that I, went to was, therapy and then school. So, you're not alone at all in terms of that. And, you think about it, it goes back to what I was saying before. So when these laws were created for compensation and stuff like that, I mean, how many people you think were creating that bill were like you and Ricky to be able to say, man, look, somebody need to drop something in there about mandatory health care as soon as you come home, and there not be some battle to get it or some hurdles and stuff like that. So, it's just one of these things where, again, directly impacted people. And let me say this too, and this goes to the point that I was making a little bit earlier, right? So I want you to think about the 1983 lawsuits. And I want you to think about the firms that do it. There's not a lot of firms out here that are doing 1983 work, right? But the ones that are successful, they owe a responsibility to find a way to litigate or provide resources to litigate so that there is legislation and laws in place. So when people come home wrongfully convicted, there's not another battle to get the help that they need. There's instant, mental health care. There's instant, stuff like that. And I'm putting my money where my mouth is. And I've been doing that with my firm for the last few years, right? I got to the point where I was spending, 50, 60, 80,000 a year out of my own firm's earnings to do wrongful conviction cases and try to help people put their lives back together. Thankfully, with the help of my wife, with Anna, yourself, and a number of different exonerees who have helped create the Board of Life After Justice, now we're able to do it in a nonprofit that not just does some wrongful convictions, but we're doing the ones that we hope lead to legislation to prevent these things from happening. But we're also focusing on legislation and creative litigation that gets us from asking for the things that we deserve to demanding the things that we deserve, and it being supported by the law. So I just wanted to make sure that I didn't gloss over that in our conversation about compensation. Everybody owes a duty to making sure that the entire population is addressed, not just cherry picking the cases that may give you the value and stuff like that. It's important. Now, as an attorney, I know that more. I see what's going on, and it is to me to not remain quiet about it. I would be wrong if I did.
Jarrett, and for those that don't know, can you explain what 1983 is?
Here's what 1983 litigation is. So if someone is wrongfully arrested, wrongfully convicted, and their civil rights are violated, due process is some of them, right? And I'll make it very simple to understand. In the context of a wrongful conviction, if a person is not able to get a fair trial because of wrongdoing by police, authorities, or some party which led to you being wrongfully convicted, you're able to file a lawsuit to recover. But here is the moving target in that. You guys are aware of what's immunity, right? A lot of authorities who are responsible for what led to wrongful convictions are immune. And when they're not immune, there's a ton of litigation that takes place to be able to get to your day in court to be able to prove that you deserve to be compensated. So it's easy to look and see when you see announcements of big settlements to think, oh, okay, well, that happened. But that happened over years and a lot of resources. And hopefully you got an attorney who knows what they're doing and who's able to navigate it to victory. And so learning the process of wrongful convictions, we must also learn the process of what happens to the wrongfully convicted afterwards. And not everybody walks away with a scene like Scrooge McDuck swimming in the money pan. Don't happen to everybody.
Right. And just to fall back on the compensation here in Texas, I will tell you that there's conditions about continuing that compensation. For example, like I can't get rearrested or they take it away from me, right? And how fair is that? You still wrongfully convicted me and took 13 years of my life. But yet if I am having, a hard time adjusting out here, like a lot of people do, I fall back into old ways or what have you, they can take away that money.
Not just that, Anna, look, they got stipulations in there where guys who wrongfully convicted are unable to afford, child care because they're locked up. When they get out, they take the back pay of child support out of the compensation. I think that people need to, to really pay attention to some of what's going on the back end past the celebration. Because maybe I'm just an optimist, and I want to believe the best out of everything and everyone. There's no way in the world I want to believe that society is okay with what happens to exonerated folks afterwards. The thing is, they just don't know all the details. And that's
Right.
why conversations like this is so important.
Yeah, I agree. Just real quick, Anna, before we move on, I'm really, really grateful that we all are here tonight, all of us together at a Matter of Innocence at this juncture or intersection, so to speak. And this won't be the only installment. This is the first installment because we feel strongly, vehemently, and passionately that people need to know the problem before they can even begin. Sometimes we try to gloss over the problem and get to the solution, and no wonder there's a passive response from the American people as it relates to the solution, because I don't fully know the depth of the problem. And so we have to continue to come together as we are tonight, as we will again, as you will hopefully invite other people, and this crowd grows bigger and bigger, and we educate you about the nuances and complexities before, during, and after a wrongful conviction. When you get a full swallow, if you will, when you're able to fully consume the depth and the breadth of the problem, only then can we really talk about solid, tangible, long-lasting solutions. People are not aware that there's a crisis of wrongful convictions in America. They're not. They think it's isolated. They think it's an anomaly. They think it's supposed to pop up on the ticker of CNN every now and then, here and there, but it's really a big, big problem. Let me just say this. Of the 2.3 million people inside our prison population, 2.5% to 5% is believed to be wrongfully convicted. There are several reports out there, but they kind of swim around the same circle of number. If we took that 5% of 2.3 million, we're talking about 115,000 individuals today, right now, languishing inside prisons across the country who should not be there. I want to also take a moment to highlight another very important fact as we attempt to educate you all tonight. The National Registry has logged about 2,900 exonerees over the past 31 years, since 1989. So let's do the quick math. If only 2,900 individuals have come home and 115,000 is still left, even if we quadruple the amount of exonerees coming home over the next 31 years, there will still be over half over half that number still languishing in prisons. But wait, because there's a group, and I don't want to misquote myself tonight, but you can reach out to me if you would like, and I can get that information to you. But there's a group who reports, the Baldeline Law Group, if my memory serves me correctly, that five out of every new 100 convictions is a result of a wrongful conviction. So you got only 2,900 coming home over the last 31 years. You have over 115,000 still there. Okay, too much? Don't believe that number? 60,000. That's still a lot of people. Okay, too high? You want to bring it down to about 1%? 30,000 people. That's still too high. But wait, you have 5 out of every 100 new cases being a result of a wrongful conviction. We have an obligation, the Jarretts, the Rickies, the Annas, and the many others, to have these panel discussions, educate you about what the real problems is before, during, and after. And we hope tonight is the beginning of what can be more to come.
Gentlemen, I want to go back. Let's scratch compensation. Jarrett, Ricky, you know, we're in prison. They, you know, try to, you hear these things in prison, right? When you're in there about reintegration. Did any of you guys receive any services? So personally speaking, here in Texas, there is a program set up. Here's the catch though. The catch is,
Anna might have caught a glitch.
Yeah, Jerry, you can go ahead and answer that until she comes back.
No, I mean, listen, I think that our answer will echo and sound the same. So I had 28 years in prison. I was sentenced to 28 years in prison. And what the system does, with whether you're wrongfully convicted or rightfully convicted, what they do is this. They wait to the very last minute to when you're supposed to mandatory release or parole out to really give you any reintegrating services, right? So for those who want to know if that's effective or not, let me use this analogy. I mean, how effective do you think it is for people to wait until they jump out of the plane to put their parachute on? Now, some people might get it on, but a lot of people are going to bounce off the ground. And that's exactly what our system does. They wait until the very last, you're going to get out in 18 months. So we're going to cram 18 months of all the programming that he should have been doing when we were supposed to be being reformed and corrected and stuff like that. And so it's no, in my opinion, the system has no desire to correct. And so it should stop being called the Department of Corrections, and it should be called the Department of Warehousing, because that's what we're doing. We're warehousing men, increasingly women, and we're getting them from certain sectors of society, of certain communities. And those communities are feeding our system, its kids, especially the communities of color. And in turn, the system is feeding the communities of color with 40-plus-year-old people who are ill-equipped to reintegrate back into society. And so that makes the revolving victim the community.
Yeah, and then that goes for guilty or innocent. So I really like how you frame that, and I really would love to come behind you. But because we're talking about in general, we're talking about whether those individuals are guilty, overcharged, or just outright innocent of their crime. But here's the difference: when those who are guilty, maybe even overcharged, but eventually come home, they have resources. They have resources to go to. But when exonerees come home and we knock on those same doors, those resources is not available to us, because at least not in the Midwest, at least not what I face and what other people exonerated out of this region has faced. We knock on those very same doors and they want to see your parole papers. They want to see that they need to know that you was convicted of a crime before we can offer you resources. You have no ties to us anymore because you're exonerated. And so you have no direct ties to us, and our resources is only available to those who are still on parole for those who still on probation, for those who still have a direct tie to us. And since the court said you are innocent and you do not actually receive any services at all. And it's sad. It's sad because those guys come home with no job skills. They come home with no financial literacy, education. They come home with no mental health access, with no health care access, with no guidance, with no life skills at all. And that's sad. And I'm so grateful. I have to say this. I'm so grateful that Jarrett and the whole Life After Justice team had this idea of, once again, stepping in. Where there's a gap, where there's a void, we have to be able to step in and say, this can no longer be. We have to find a way to be able to step in, step up, and make sure these exonerees coming home have fair access just like anybody else. They've been through enough already. It's just too much to then say come home and go through another 20 or 30 years of torment because you don't have the essentials at your fingertips. So.
Yeah, well said, Ricky and Jarrett. I appreciate you guys. Yeah, and I love how you put in people that have made a mistake, Ricky. You know, there's still people deserve second chances.
Yes.
You know, I know you guys were in prison for many years, as was I. And I met some really good people in there, you know, that yes, they made a mistake, but it is so hard for people to get back to, you know, reintegrated into society. You know, one of the things that hurts a lot is the checking of the box. You know, so that right there, in a lot of ways, kind of dismisses them in the running if there's other applicants. So things of that nature. And I mean, well said, Ricky. I appreciate you bringing in people that have actually made a mistake into this conversation because, but it's truly unfortunate that us as exonerees, after everything that was done, we still can't. This is one of the things that they failed to help us with.
Yeah,
it's really difficult. So what do you guys think, Ricky and Jarrett? What do you think you can recommend to our audience to get more involved in the work around wrongful convictions? Any suggestions?
Yeah, I think that you have to start locally. You have to start locally. Wherever you stay, you know, is where you should start to look to where you're needed at. I mean, I think it's easy to see, you know, organization from a different state or something like that doing something and want to, you know, do that or be a part of it. But I think that for folks, I think you need to realize how powerful your voice and vote is. And so I'm not gonna lie, I'm guilty of this. I've walked into many ballot booths and didn't know not one name of the judges that were up. And I've checked boxes, you know, and just kept it moving, right? Now, as an attorney in front of certain judges and seeing different judges, man, I ain't doing that no more. I want to know who you are. I want to know what you're about. And I think that is what we need to do as individuals. I think we need to focus and start there. Go down on a Monday to your criminal courthouse and just sit there and observe and just look and see. Find out the numbers, you know, read about what's going on, and don't just take what you hear as the truth. Do research, because there's a lot of rhetoric of scaring people to vote a certain way. And where did it lead us to? I know right now, I mean, look, we got 2.3 plus million people incarcerated and almost another million plus on some type of form of probation, parole, or electronic monitoring. I mean, that's more than actual countries. You know that, right? Like Switzerland and Newark. And I just, you know, there's so much good that we can do with fixing this system, but we can't be afraid to do it. And I think that has a lot to do with why things are so old. They're so slow. When you look at Kevin Strickland, we knew this evidence of his innocence for years, right? Yet he couldn't get out of there, right? So that in my opinion, I attribute that to the perception of folks who go to prison and who are in prison. And I think that perception has always been historically where they done something, they could have done something, well, so bad, it's not my something. And until we start to look at individuals who are going through this and sympathize and empathize with them and their families, it's hard for us to want to do something. So go down, observe, read, look at the numbers, look at how judges track records and stuff like that, and go and vote each and every time that you can, because there are people who are incarcerated who would love to have their rights to vote back.
Yeah, that's powerful. Listen, Anna, audience.
Yeah, guys, that actually is. I'm gonna throw out a question to you guys.
Anna, can I answer first?
Oh yes, I'm sorry,
I'm
Ricky.
gonna catch this moment. That was me gathering my thought. My apologies. Before I answer what people can do, I want to first lay out what it's going to cost you if you do not. I think that's very, very, very important. And so one of the things that we also speak on when we are out and about sharing about our criminal legal system and as it relates to wrongful convictions, people, and Jarrett just said it, it's not my deal. It's not my wrongful conviction. It's not my family member. But first of all, the person who pays is the wrongfully convicted. 1, 2, their family pays. 3, the victim's family pay. They receive false justice. That's 3 right there. And then you get to, well, what does that still have to do with me? And then we get to community, because when the wrong person is in prison, that means the right person is in society waiting to commit a crime. And my thought is this: a person who commits a crime and sees an innocent person goes to prison for their crime, I don't think that they're thinking, whoo, I got away with that, I bet not do it again. I believe they feel emboldened to do it again. And there is cases where they have done it again. And so we really have to be mindful when we say, well, honey, I don't have a dog in that fight. Let's not donate. Let's not support. Let's stay away. Well, you might. Real perpetrators still in the community. And lastly, what I really want to drive home is you absolutely have a dog in a fight if you are a taxpayer. You are footing the bill. Who do you think? Nobody thinks about that. Nobody thinks about that. Like, wait a minute, who is footing the bill to keep 115,000 wrongfully convicted people in prison at a tune on the low end to $20,000 a year, and on the high end, $60,000 a year? And so if we do basic math, let's go with the low end, $20,000 a year, 20 years. It used to be an average of 20 years. Now it's been reduced to 14 years. But I just want to do quick math with you. Because I did 23 years, that's $400,000 roughly to keep one person in prison. If you multiply that 400,000 times 115,000, we're talking about $40 billion with a B over the course of a couple of decades, between 14 and 20 years, that you, taxpayers, are spending keeping the wrong person in prison. Who wants that bill? Not me and not you. Listen, we was just at that conference in Phoenix, and I went downstairs and I got a couple juices and a couple waters, and she said, your room number. And we was joking, banter back and forth, and I gave her the wrong room number, of course, joking, and we all started laughing. But imagine that. Imagine you being at a hotel resort and somebody comes downstairs at the counter, order a bunch of stuff, and put the tab on you. They take the stuff back up to their room, but you're stuck with the tab. It's exactly what's happening when taxpayers foot the bill for keeping. They make the mistake. They knowingly, 54% wrongful convictions is police and prosecutorial misconduct, means they likely knew. And so they consciously make the mistake and says, it don't cost me anything. As a police officer, I have qualified immunity. And as a prosecutor, I have full immunity. So, and I don't pay $1 out of my pocket. Those who are with us tonight, the taxpayers foot that bill. And so I really want to context what Jarrett is saying and what I'm going to say real quick as a wrap up. Here's what I think people need to do. I believe that people need to become more aware of the problems surrounding wrongful convictions, to attend more events like tonight. That's the first. We have to become aware. And then the second thing I think people need to do is align themselves with the solution. Please, I ask you tonight, as you heard Jarrett, myself, Anna, please think about it as you go to bed, as you drive to work tomorrow, and say, will I align myself with the solutions? And the solutions could be holding your elected officials accountable. The solutions could be supporting life after justice, what Jarrett and team is doing over there. The solution could be supporting his law firms. I think that many people enjoy supporting innocent projects all across the nation. I sit as an executive board member of the Innocence Network, which we support 69 of those organizations. It's great to support those. We want you to support those. But people don't often think about support the exonerees as well that those organizations have brought home. And so that is something that you can do when it comes to aligning yourself with the solution, is support exonerees who is taking the lead, who is leading the way, who is doing the work, who has the credibility, as Jarrett and myself, as Anna and many others, and find a way to get behind them, especially if you're not as acknowledgeable about the issues, but another individual is, hey, I'm going to put my volunteer hours, I'm going to put my disposable income behind you because I see that you're leading the way. I like what you're saying. I like what you're doing. Keep doing it. Those are other ways that low-hanging fruits, what everyday people can do, because people can get lost in their own head saying, what can I do? I'm not a lawyer, Jarrett. I'm not Ricky. I don't speak like that. I don't have a platform like that. But you can get behind people like us who do. And that is a direct ask that I'm asking you to do tonight.
Well said, Ricky. Thank you, Jarrett. It brings to mind for me, guys, when you say that we can do the smallest things, right? Get behind somebody. Well, I have to bring up, Melissa Lucio, guys. I have to bring her up. She is 8 days away, facing execution, and the thing is that there is so many things that are coming up that could possibly prove her innocence, right? I'm not here to fight her guilt or innocence, but there is new things that should have been admitted, Jarrett, from the get-go, and they weren't. So I think we can all relate to that. And I just say, if somebody wants to help now, get on the Innocence Project, sign the petition, because she's only 8 days away. Call Governor Abbott in Texas, just something. And that's the smallest thing you can do. But everything that you guys touched on, you're right on the money, and I appreciate that. I want to jump into some questions, Jarrett. Oh, did you want to answer, Jarrett? I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I was going to echo that for Melissa as well. My organization, we've shared support on social media. She's represented by a group of fine attorneys. And so we've just tried to lend our voice. But let me say this. It's a terrifying thing when asking someone to make sure that they're right is too much to ask. And we're talking about life.
Yep.
That's powerful.
Yeah, it is. It kind of set me back, Jarrett. Thank you. You're messing me up here. We still got 30 minutes. I'm going to throw a question out here, guys. This is from Emily. This is from Diane Stefani. What can be done to change the judicial system? I'm sorry, excuse me. Yeah. Thoughts? Anyone?
I'm gonna say something that Ricky was talking about earlier that needs to happen. We got to find a way to nullify all of the power being on the side of the prosecuting office. And I say that not because I don't have faith in any prosecutor getting it right. I say that because we should not allow the conflict of interest that exists, because here it is. Imagine a prosecutor putting an officer on the stand, knowing he's lying or has some thoughts that he might not be telling the truth, but you need him for a triple homicide in the next courtroom 2 days later, right? what do you think is going on with that internal battle there, right? Why do you think that no matter how egregious the act of an officer, not the good ones, the bad ones, they never get as much time as an Anna or a Ricky, right? Because this system is designed to protect bad actors as long as they have a uniform. And I'm not saying that. Go look at how immunity was created in this country. You know, how Breonna Taylor's officers, no one was held accountable for that. Go look at the wrongful convictions. Go look at the one that's paid out the most money anywhere, right? How many officers have been held accountable from those wrongfully convicted who were compensated, who won at trial? I'll wait. So until that, happens, then we're still going to be in this position of our hat is in our hand and we're asking for things that we should be given as citizens in America, in due process, in the Constitution. I'll say this one thing, I mentioned this in my book. I went to do a study abroad in England, and our assignment was to go to what's called the Old Bailey, which is a court system in England, and sit and observe and then write a paper. And I saw this amazing barrister, and she was amazing. She was prosecuting the case, of a child sexual assault, difficult case to prosecute or to defend no matter what. And she was amazing. She was well prepared. I came back about 2 days later at the same courtroom because we had to, again, observe to write a paper. She was now defending a sexual assault case. And she was equally as amazing. She was equally as prepared and had done her due diligence. And she was fighting passionately. And I saw this from both the prosecuting side the day before and the defense side a couple days later. The system in England is set up so that one attorney is not just simply a defense attorney, right? Or one attorney is not just simply a prosecutor. So I'm not saying that our system needs to dramatically change to that. But what I am saying is, how do we find a way to preserve that same empathy and sympathy that's needed? Because that's what's wrong with our system. Too oftentimes, judges and prosecutors are tired of seeing the same similar cases, so they treat all of them the same. That's how you get wrongful convictions, because people are convinced that the evidence of their guilt is there. I know it is. Instead of just letting the evidence in the case tell you what happened, people are creating, things and conflicts are existing. And I don't know of any other relationship in any capacity where the prosecutor and the police work together other than a doctor and a nurse. I don't know of another one.
Yeah. If I could just say real quick to Diana and to everybody, if you have a pen and a piece of paper, if you have your iPhones near you, I want you to open your notes or your Androids and write these things down, just so that you can remember and so that you can't say that Jerry, Ricky, and Anna did not give you a working list of what can be done. Spot on, echo what Jarrett is saying. One thing that we can do to change our judicial system is vote with a conscience. Jarrett talked about already. The second thing we can do is what I said: get in it, get involved inside the system and not just from the sidelines. The third thing that we can do is help hold our elected officials accountable before they go in there. As Jarrett said, ask, what are they doing? What are you up to? Make sure you're not checking the box. And then when we do learn that they involved in hanky-panky or fighting wrongful convictions back to back, when it's time for re-election, you're not going back in there, buddy. You oppose. I cannot have truth and trust in you when you have shown that you oppose the truth. So that's number 3. Number 4, you can support groups or individuals, your innocence projects, your innocence networks, your Life After Justice, your I Am Resilience. You can support individuals or groups who's taking the lead towards change. The 5th thing that you can do is build trusting relationships We have to build trust and relationships inside our judicial system. I don't just preach to the choir. I work with police officers. I work with prosecutors, and those individuals are not favorable when I first walk in the door. But what we do over time is we build trusting relationships. The sixth thing I would say that we can do, Diana, to change our judicial system is training more and new and innovative training for our police and our prosecutors.
I mimic that as well, Ricky. That's well said right there. I mean, I think you touched base on everything. You and Jarrett, I don't even have anything to add, but yes, absolutely. Make your voices heard. It's imperative that we do choose our elected officials and educate ourselves behind it. It's very important. It's very important. I got another question, guys, from let's do Emily Smith. Do you hold any anger or responsibility against your public defender?
I don't hold any anger against public defenders because the public defense is a part of the system. 80% of people rely on public defense, and when it comes to criminal matters, so the playing field isn't level. They don't have the same resources, and I don't want anyone to take any of the comments that myself, Ricky, or Anna said, and I think I can speak for them in saying that we're bashing public defenders. That's not the case at all. We're bashing the system that sets public defenders up to fail or to succeed with odds that are very, very, very not in your favor. And so again, this is about the system. And when you think about it, just think about this. The people of so-and-so versus anybody. That statement alone should speak volumes. At the disposal of any prosecuting office is a phone call or an email away to request the feds to get involved, the ATF, the DEA, the whoever it is. At the disposal of a public defender is yelling down the hallway most times and trying to see if the investigator who shared amongst 30 other attorneys is free to go find a witness. None of it is fair. This isn't about crying about spoiled milk. This is about crying about spoiled rights, right? And everyone should have a right to what is fair. And in order for us to get these things implemented, we have to put directly impacted people in leadership positions, and we have to train them to be able to do the job. And it's hugely important. Public defenders need resources. Public defenders need training. I guarantee you this. If you gave public defenders offices half the budgets that prosecuting offices had and half the resources that prosecuting offices have, you would probably have half of the wrongful convictions not happening.
I agree with that, Jarrett. It's funny that you mentioned that, but yeah, you're right. The state has unlimited resources, and yet the public defender's office, you would think that was created by the same state of Texas, right? Just in my opinion. And yet they're getting paid very minimal, very little resources. And why? I mean, it's unfortunate that has happened. Okay, I want to go to one more, guys. This is from Frank Carlson. He's saying that this is a great conversation, everyone. So many of these injustices take place at the state and local level, outside of the federal system. So does that mean reform also must take place at the state and local level, piece by piece? Is there a place for federal legislation?
That's a heck of a question, Frank. And I got an answer for you for it, because we're dealing with stuff like this in Life After Justice. Here's what needs to happen. First of all, the state is responsible. Each individual states, they are afforded their own police powers per the Constitution or what's not in the Constitution. So how do the feds get involved? The same way they get involved with any other thing they want the states to get them to do. They incentivize them. Oh, you want a budget for this or that? Why don't you change the way you do bond in this state, right? You want a budget to put a bunch of solars and federally funded or whatever it is? All right, no problem. Why don't you find a way to give more of a budget to the public defenders in your system? Because from what we're looking at in the data we see, people are getting inadequate defense. So this is the responsibility of both state and federal, but it is our federal government who needs to put some of its rhetoric, to action. I'm still waiting on a lot of the reform I was promised, when this past election came through. And so it's that, we have to be able to find a way, both federal and state. Well, look, look, Anna, let me say this. We found a way as a society to work together and survive something that tests every human to his limit. And that was the pandemic. For a certain amount of time, you didn't see Republicans slandering Democrats. You didn't see Democrats throwing mud at the right. You didn't see mass shootings. Everyone was trying to survive something that everyone acknowledges affected everyone. As soon as we find a way to get people to realize this criminal justice affects everyone, it's going to stay the same. And so that's what we need to do. We need people to understand that this is a pandemic that's been going on for quite some time and it's bubbling over. And that's what we need to do. We need to address it together in unison and fix it, because it can be fixed. But the effort, resources have to be instituted to be able to get that fixed.
I definitely agree with that one. You're absolutely right. Ricky, you have anything to add?
No, I do, but I don't, because I just really want people to, I want what Jarrett just said to sit on people's brains. I do not want to come behind that at this time because it's so spot on.
Hold on 1 second, guys. I'm trying to.
We've been on for an hour and a half already. My God, man.
Yeah, this stuff can really, I hope people are getting their full on, so to speak, just like when we go out to eat at a restaurant.
Yeah.
It's good, it's tasty, it's filling. I hope that is what the audience is getting. And I hope that it is what the audience want more of. As Anna is getting what her papers together or whatever she's doing, I just want to remind people that this is the first installment of a Matter of Innocence, and that there will be more. If you like what you heard, let us know. If you thought we missed something, let us know. If you think it should be more of this and less of that, more of that and less of this, please reach out and let us know. I often say on the stage that we get to do this together. And so although you see my face in the box, Jarrett's in the box, Anna's in the box, we are all in the box together. We're all in the ring together, and we get to do this together. So please don't feel like this is our stage tonight or this is our platform. This is all of our stage tonight, and this is all of our platform, and it most certainly is all of our problem, and we get to solve it together.
Yeah, I mean, I man, it just feels so good to be able to be on with you all and to be doing this. And Anna, we all need to keep it going, because again, I'm just calling facts as they are. How many podcasts, how many things are about wrongfully convicted? Now I want you to tell me how many of those are led by the wrongfully convicted. I'll wait.
Yeah, which is important. So important, because you'll be waiting, Jarrett. So I might as well circle around you on that comment. That is something I really want people to walk away understanding tonight as well. We was underneath the problem for 10 years, 13 years, 23 years. And the people came to rescue us, various innocence projects and attorneys. And we had the right, every exoneree has the right to live his life post-relief the way he or she desires. But we decided to roll up our sleeves. Jarrett went back to school, educated himself. I as well in a different capacity. But we are also letting you know tonight, I think very clear, hopefully very clear, that we are here, that we are not underneath the problem, that we are actually in a better position to understand the problem, and that we're leading towards solutions, but that we also going to need your support in doing that as well. So.
Anna, you still there?
Yeah, very quickly before we start wrapping up, guys, I'm sorry. There was one action you would recommend to the audience if they wanted to get more involved in the wrongful convictions. What would you say?
You know, I'll let Ricky go because Ricky had those points. I want him to say those again so folks can catch those because they were very important and it encompasses a lot of what I was saying. You know, but mine's is this: start locally. In my opinion, start locally. See what you can do locally in your field, in your area. And the only way you're going to do that is if you go observe what's going on and start to do the research. I mean, I think we wait sometimes for our local news to tell us what it is when we should always do our own research. And so once you know, I'll say this before I let Ricky go. Here's why I say start locally and stuff like that. Imagine something in your house that you use all the time breaking. So maybe it's a remote control or something like that. So you'll probably go get some tape, probably go get new batteries and stuff like that, you know, to see if you can fix it. You know how to fix it. Now it's just a matter of whether or not you got the tape, whether or not you got the batteries to fix it. That's exactly what this is. This is about people who are directly impacted, the communities as well, you know, and they know some of the fixes. They know some of the solutions, but they're usually the furthest away from the solutions, and it's because the resources are not there to implement them. And so that's why I'm saying start locally, start in your backyard. And if we start locally in all of our backyards in the States, we can meet in the middle and take this thing up to DC. But that's what has to happen. We have to stop asking, and we have to do what exactly got this country to where it is today. We have to litigate. We have to advocate. And we have to move towards equity, not just equality, equity all the way across the board.
Absolutely. Yeah. Ricky, you want to add to that? 2 minutes.
Yeah, I got you. I hope you took out your iPhones or your Androids or your notepad earlier with the 6 things that I wrote down. Those are some of the things that you can do. But I'm going to be very, very frank and very, very honest with you all tonight, especially as you took the time to join us on this panel discussion. The one thing that I would ask all of you, your friends, the larger community, is to support us, to support our efforts, to support Life After Justice, to support Jarrett Adams law firms. If you know of exonerees who've come home and they need representation as far as their lawsuits, reach out to Jarrett, support that. If you're looking for prosecutors training, if you're looking for various workshops, things that I do over at I Am Resilience, go over to resilienceMode.com and support us. But I don't just say that from a singular point of view. I say that because we're going to be taking the lead. We're going to continue to be, and there's others as well. I'm not just saying it's just us two, but if we're going to be taking the lead on this, and if I was in your shoes, I'd rather follow the leader, follow their social medias, stay in contact with them, because of the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 things that there is to do, you're going to need somebody to help guide you through that. We like to say that, what can I do? But if I give you that and you don't have nobody leading you through that, then you're likely not going to do that. That's going to be a sticky note that's going to get left on your counter, that's eventually going to get thrown away by your husband or one of the loved ones living in your home. So follow us, stay in tune, stay connected, and support what we're doing. And we'll be able to do this together. All those things that we mentioned.
All right, everybody. Thank you for everyone who tuned in tonight and to Life After Justice and I Am Resilience, Ricky Kidd, Jarrett Adams, and all our behind the scenes team. We'll be back in the fall with another installment of Matter of Innocence. My name is Anna Vasquez, Innocence Project of Texas. Good night, everyone.
Good night. God bless.